Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Katie and today we are going to be doing something a little different. So instead of a paper project, we are actually going to be creating these no-sew gnomes. So these are actually just made out of socks and a few other materials, and they're super cute and really easy to make. So what you're going to need for this project is 4 cups of rice. This is just plain long grain rice. A material for beard. So this is just cut in a 4 by 6 inch rectangle. Then you're going to need 2 fuzzy socks that are corresponding. So one will be for the base and one will be for the top. So you got to kind of think of which one you want to be the hat. The base will mostly be covered. You'll only see it from the side. So if you really like one more than the other, pick the one that you like more for the hat. Then you're going to need a plain white sock. This could be a used sock as well. This mainly gets covered up and no one would know that there's a used sock underneath it. So if it's an older clean sock, you can go ahead and use that as well. Then you will need a piece of trim. This is to tie the bell around the top. You'll need a corresponding bell that matches. Then you'll need 2 pieces of string that are kind of really sturdy string. So this one is about 7 inches long and this one's about 15 to 16 inches. You're going to need 3 rubber bands, 2 smaller and 1 larger. Then you're going to need some fun, really soft trim. This kind of goes around the base of the hat as well. And then you're going to need either some bronzer or blush to color the nose. You could always use ink if you have ink available, or paint as well. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. The first step is to cut the white sock right here where that heel is. So there's almost like a stitch mark as well on all of these socks. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that as my guide and get that cut. This piece could be used for another project, so I'm just going to kind of set that aside. And this is going to be the base of your gnome. So the first 2 cups of rice I think are the easiest to fill, because what I'm going to do is put the sock around the cup and flip it on over. And I want my gnome to be kind of chubby, so I'm going to flip it over and kind of push it down too. That way I'm kind of expanding the little gnome. So then you can see it's kind of a round ball. And then the next one, I did choose some flexible cups that I had in my house to kind of squeeze and pour. And this is going to be a little more time consuming. If you had a little pitcher, it would be a lot easier. When we did this project for a craft night, it ended up we used pitchers instead of these cups, and it worked really well. But these cups do work, and I'm kind of just, using what you have on hand. That's always a plus for me. So the project is actually from my friend Brenda, and she has her own Etsy shop. So go to her shop and check her out. She's got some really fun projects. She's the one that created these little gnomes and the kits. And I like the gnomes being kind of chubby and sturdy, so I'm going to use all 4 cups. And again, you don't have to. If you're making these with children, this might be the part that you want to kind of take over. It can get a little messy. Rice can kind of go everywhere. But this method seems to be working, using an inexpensive flexible cup and kind of just pouring it in slowly. So once this is full, we're going to tie the top with one of those rubber bands. So we're going to use one of the smaller ones to tie the top. And this is obviously just to secure it. So if you don't have enough material at the top because it's kind of over full, you can always just squish him down. So I'm just going to go ahead and tie it a few times until it is tight. And this is where the string comes in. So we're going to use the shorter one to tie this part. And this is just to kind of secure it. Rubber bands have a tendency over time to kind of dry out. So what we're going to do here is just kind of tie this just in case the rubber band ever does get dry and brittle and breaks. So right now you kind of have this snowball. So to make a body, we're going to use the larger one and we're going to wrap it around twice and then wrap it around to kind of give him a belly band. This way we're kind of separating him, because before he kind of just looked like a snowball. So now he's got more of a shape. So you can see the top and the bottom, and it's kind of like a 2-ball snowman. So to give him a nose, we're also going to use the other smaller rubber band. And really, you're just going to grab a bunch of that rice and then just twist it around. So you can make the nose as big or as small as you want. This one's a little smaller than my original, and that's okay because every gnome is different. So we're just kind of going to move it around until we have the shape, the rough shape of what we like. So for the nose, to give it some color, that's where that makeup or ink or even paint comes in. We're just going to use some bronzer just because there's no drying time. And there you go. He's already got a little bit of a tan. Doesn't matter if you kind of get it all over the face because that's all going to be covered up anyway. So the next part is cutting the other 2 socks, and you're going to do the exact same thing. So you're going to cut where that heel is, and this one's going to be the bottom. And you're just going to kind of tuck it on in. So this will be the bottom of the gnome. And this I wanted to use as the top because I really liked the stripes. So I thought that would be a much more fun hat than the black. And again, the black mainly is going to get covered by the beard. You're only going to see it from the side. Oh, and the other part, there is fluff that you're going to need as well. So you're going to need some, this is it's not called fluff. What is it called? Stuffing that you can just get anywhere. Joann Fabrics, you can get it from Michael sells it, Hobby Lobby, all those stores. You're pretty much going to want to just tuck it into the top and then make sure that this part as well is kind of up there too. That kind of gives it some stability as well. So you're just going to put the hat on, and eventually that'll become the nice top ball of the hat, which is super cute. So the next part will be kind of just hot gluing down the base. And again, don't worry if there's extras. You can always cut it off. You can always tuck the other piece under it. It really doesn't matter if there's extra at this point. So what we're going to do is just hot glue all of this. What I really like about this project is there is no sewing. I've seen some of these really cute gnomes that had some sewing, and a no-sew project to me is really fun because you can do it with just about anyone who just wants to craft but isn't, you know, an expert in sewing. This is a perfect project for them. This is also really good for kids as well. So right here, I totally forgot a step, which was to tie this string around. So we're gonna go and do that. So since we didn't glue down the top, it really doesn't matter. And again, this string is just to give some stability in case those rubber bands ever break. Now there's gonna be so much hot glue on here that I don't know if over time these will come too brittle and break, but you should probably do that step before you put on the sock. But again, it doesn't matter because we were able to fit it in. The next part is going to be the beard. So you don't want to put the top on before you put the beard because any kind of mistakes that you may have made, you can kind of tuck this hat underneath with the beard. So the beard material, you're going to want to make sure that the beard is going down. So kind of brush it. You could even take a comb if you really wanted to, but you can easily just brush it with your fingers. And this part right here, we are going to cut a little notch. And this is what's going to fit under the nose. So we're just going to cut that in. And this part doesn't matter if you cut the fur. We just need it to fit under his nose. So he's already starting to look more like a gnome at this point. So we are going to want to cut the fur this way. So we're going to want to cut 2 lines. And just to kind of give you a guide, I'm going to eyeball it, but essentially you're cutting off both the corners. The only caution I have with the fur is to make sure that you are going under the backing. So you don't want to just chop because then it'll be a straight edge with the fur. So you're going to want to make sure you have a nice fine tip. And I actually might want to use my smaller fine tip and you want to go under that backing and just cut. This is probably the most difficult part of the project because you're trying to get under that backing and not actually cut the fur. So when you remove the backing, you still have the fur. So that way from the front, you can see that the shape goes down, but there's still fur. Otherwise, you would have this sharp edge and it would look kind of funny if it just kind of stopped there. So just use a really sharp scissors. Fabric scissors is probably ideal. I'm just kind of using what I have on my desk. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it just kind of gives that nice little shape of his beard going down. So we are just going to hot glue his little beard on as well. Tuck that underneath his nose and just kind of glue that under. This project is really fun and easy to make with kids, grandkids. These are really great teachers' gifts, bus drivers, lunch ladies, anyone who loves gnomes during the Christmas season or even the winter season. You don't have to necessarily buy Christmas colors like this top sock is. You could do blues just for winter themed. You could do all sorts of different ones. So we're just kind of gluing it on the top. We're not worried about gluing it on the bottom. We're going to leave that loose. And then we're going to glue the top hat on. So his hat kind of just covers his face and it covers that beard as well. And he's really starting to take shape. So with a little bit of hot glue again, we're just kind of going to get that sealed in. And that is why we do the bottom part first and then we do the hat over because it kind of overlaps his little beard. And this piece, if that bothers you, you can always just chop that part off. It will be covered with the trim, but if you don't like that piece, you can definitely get that part cut off. And then again, just a little bit of glue. I'm going to put in another glue stick just so I don't run out for this project. All right, and then you're going to use this pretty trim. So this is super soft trim and it's just really fluffy and it just looks, you know, gives it the look of that Santa hat. So what I want to make sure I do is not start a seam in the front. I want to make sure I have it all laid out and then just go around the back, and then I'll trim in the back because most people aren't going to actually see the back. But to let you know how long this is, it is about 15 inches. You don't necessarily need that long, but it's nice to have extra, again, just in case. I have a feeling a 12-inch will do, but I do like having extra just because you never know. So we're going to start in the front and kind of just lay it down and make sure I get over the edge and over his nose. So you can see that. And then we're just going to, you know, flip him over and kind of glue on the sides. So this part I would definitely recommend an adult doing, but the rest of this kids could definitely do. And if you have kids that are savvy with the glue gun, absolutely go right ahead and let them use it. A low temp glue gun would probably be really a good idea for the younger kids, but they definitely like doing this. My daughters loved this project and we're actually going to make quite a few more for Christmas gifts for teachers, and they're just really excited that they're actually making gifts for their teachers and giving them something that's custom and homemade. So there is that. So that's all nice and glued down. And again, you don't need to worry about it being perfect or even. These are just cute little gnomes. The only part with the fuzzy socks is a little bit of fuzz seems to go everywhere, but that we can always pick off later. And the last part is really just tying the bow on the top for that hat. So the corresponding, I can have this really fun red and white, almost candy cane looking, just because the top was red and white and a nice green little bell. So this is actually for one of my daughters who loves green. So I'm going to go ahead and tie a bow in the front as well because I just thought the bows were really cute. So since we have that little fluff up there and then also the top part of the sock, it kind of gives it more stability up there, but that fluff gives it a nice little poof ball effect. I probably should have cut this a little longer, but that's okay. You can definitely get it into a bow. Always be more generous with ribbon. It's a lot easier to cut a big ribbon or to tie a big ribbon than a small one. But there you have it. Here is our adorable little Christmas gnome. And there is just a little bit of extra string, which we can definitely move. But here they are. So I'm going to try to get them both in camera. So here is the original that I created before. And then here is the next one. So they're super fun. They just kind of sit up. And they're really sturdy because you have that 4 cups of rice in there. So they kind of just sit on their own. You don't have to worry about propping them on anything. They look really cute on a table or on a windowsill. They're perfect for the holiday season, and every one of them are different. So this guy's a little rounder and shorter, and this guy's a little taller. And you could easily make these with different size socks as well. You could make them with children's socks to make little smaller versions of this, or we just use the regular women's size socks, and then the big white socks were actually men's socks because they were bigger, and then you can fill the rice with more rice. So that's our little project for today. I hope you enjoyed today's project. Thank you so much for joining me, and happy crafting.